UFC 158. What is it, like one kick in the balls after the other? To me, it was but it finally happened. To be honest with you, I was more nervous than I was excited. I was excited to see, this fight that champion versus champion, Strikeforce versus UFC, come to fruition. That was fantastic for me. But they said that 2 years ago. So and then it ended up being BJ Penn, and then it was Carlos Condit against Diaz was going through all this shit. I guess he didn't show up at press conferences, and I mean we all know the story. And the UFC beat it into our heads. Nick didn't show up for pressers, and that's part of his contract, or whatever. But I actually went to great lengths to make sure that I saw this fight, and I made a big deal out of it. Um, and it was like one kick in the balls after the other. First of all, I didn't like the card. I didn't like any of the fights on the card. Rick Story impressed me. Carlos Condit, I have more respect for him than I ever did in the past, and I've always been a Carlos Condit fan, even the WEC. Carlo Prater, everybody basically his run through everyone that they paired him up with in the WEC in the welterweight division. He dominated. He dominated, just submitted them, knocked them out. I mean, the guy has the highest finishing ratio in the fucking the sport. So I mean, I wasn't surprised when he wasn't afraid of Johnny Hendricks. He took Johnny Hendricks' best shots. Best shots. I mean, he took them over and over. And up until then, I felt like I paid for decisions. Decisions. And Derek Elkins. I don't even want to get into that fight. He stood back up, put his hands up, and the ref goes and stops it. I can't believe that it was. I mean, Antonio Carvello was so lucky that Eve Levine, a seasoned referee, would stop a fight, on those grounds. Why? Because your knees wobble and your knees gave out. Dude, that happens when you get hit hard. But he stood back up. His eyes weren't rolling, and he stopped it. And this guy trained for 3 months, and that TKO is stuck on his fucking record for the rest of his MMA career. It's ridiculous. It was like that was the first kick in the balls. The second was the freak show guy or whatever, and then what was that? It seems like the UFC is starting to they're really trying to push Mike Ricci, and I understand this. He's Canadian, TriStar, new breed, mixed martial artist, but he's not that good. First of all, he did make it through Ultimate Fighter. I'm gonna go with Chael Sonnen on this and say it's not a reality show. It really is probably one of the most testing and trying and pain in the ass and fucking crazy MMA tournaments that you can get into. It is the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, just thinking about it makes me sweat. Mike Ricci did not impress me at all. The only person that really, really impressed me was Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks. And afterwards, I'm watching Fuel TV, and they're saying, who should get the next title shot? Should it be Ellenberger? Should it be Hendricks? Are you fucking kidding me? Hendricks has been. I mean, Hendricks has been fucked more time. He's almost at the Anthony Pettis level. Anthony Pettis has been passed over and fucked over more times than anyone. And what I saw was Carlos Con. Let's go in order anyway. Patrick Cote. I'm watching this fight. I'm looking at him. He's landing strikes from the bottom, but he's getting taken down. He has no jiu-jitsu game. He's rolling for an armbar, but you can clearly see that he's doing it. It's so telegraphed. So, I mean, the Volker defended it well. I thought he took him down enough times. I thought he did enough on the ground to get the unanimous decision. But no, Cote got it. That was my pick. But I don't want him to win like that. And again, I don't think, I don't think, anyone wants to win like that, like Antonio Carvello. I don't think Antonio Carvello should have been celebrating like that. Who wants to win like that? I mean, did he know? The fighter stood back up, and put his hands up, and then Eve Levine stops it. No one wants to win like that. You just took all that time he spent training for this fight is gone. It was unfair right off the bat. That disappointed me. And it was just like one after another. It got to a point where I actually went out for this one. I never go out. I just watch it from home by the pay-per-view, come up talk to you guys. But the deal was with this one is I had been waiting for so long that someone actually called and said, do you want to come over? Got a bunch of fucking beer and order the pay-per-view, big fucking screen HD. For what? For a bunch of decisions, for a bunch of crooked decisions. I don't think Patrick Cote won. I wish he would have. I don't think he earned the victory. Jordan Main is definitely a force to be reckoned with. He's coming from Strikeforce. That's certainly a guy to keep your eye on. But then you got guys like the Freak Show. Dana White tweeted, he's not going to need that mask anymore, hinting that he's probably going to be cut. But let's move on to what everyone wants to hear, and that's Nick Diaz versus George St. Pierre. Just like, that's what I felt like. Wasn't drunk. It just felt like that. That wasn't Nick Diaz. That's not the Nick Diaz. I know. I just, I felt like so many times it was like, go forward, go forward, go forward. He had George boxed up, dizzy, like he does to everyone. He manages to do this style that he did develop on his own with some help from Richard Perez, and he didn't use it to the best of his ability. I hate to say it because I'm a Nick Diaz fan, a huge Nick Diaz fan. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters that's ever graced the octagon, hexagon, circle, ring. That it didn't look like Nick Diaz out there. That wasn't Nick Diaz. It was almost like he was expecting to blow through George, and I gained even more. I said at UFC 154, my post fight blog after vlog after UFC 154. George earned my respect back after the adversity he went through. That head kick from Carlos Condit. Going down, taking Carlos ground and pound, and getting back up was he earned my respect. Tonight, George St. Pierre is the real deal, and it's not his job. It was a boring fight, and everyone was bitching. Honestly, it's so boring. He hits like a bitch. He hits like a girl. That's not his fucking job to make sure that he hits hard. It's not his job to make sure he's fucking exciting. What his job is to keep that goddamn belt and keep winning, and that's what he does. George St. Pierre wins fights, period. He wins fights. He's fucking strong. He's ready. I think George has that belt because he knows what he needs to do to win fights. He's not the greatest promoter of fights, but hell, fuck, it's George St. Pierre. In my opinion, if he fought Anderson Silva, it would just be he would tap instantly, if not knockout, round 1 or 2. Nick Diaz has supported this channel, my YouTube channel, me for a long time. Nick Diaz is the reason I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the fucking first place. I saw his fight at UFC 44 or UFC 42. I mean, and he's always impressed me. He's never failed to rise to the occasion. I just don't know what he was waiting for tonight. I was kind of confused. My wife was asking me, what's he doing? What's he doing? I'm like, we're not in there. I'm not in there with George. Maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe he's waiting for something that we don't see. And just Nick never got off. He never got a chance to get off. And he called for a rematch. First said he was retiring and called for a rematch. Neither were going to happen. The post-fight press conference comes. Carlos Condit and he are both there. And he said he's open to rematch with Carlos Condit. I'd love to see that. Especially after the fight that he put up against Johnny Hendricks. He took Johnny Hendricks' best punches. These are punches that put veteran mixed martial artists that were title, on the title hunt, right up there. Number 1, number 2, number 3. He makes their unconscious bodies slide across the canvas after the knockout. You don't see that often. You saw that maybe Chuck Liddell at 205, maybe. He has ridiculous power. Carlos Condit took his best punches time and time and time again. And Carlos Condit, wow. I mean, he just kept coming forward. There was no breaking Carlos Condit. And it wasn't like the Nick Diaz fight where he ran, clearly he ran. I mean, I'm a Carlos Condit fan, he fucking ran. But he didn't run this fight. He was in his face. He thought he was better than him. He was confident. He looked great, flying knees. Muay Thai off the fucking ass. Jiu-Jitsu was fucking incredible. And it's a shame that I cannot say the same for Nick Diaz. But what I can't say about George St. Pierre either is, a champion and it should be able to finish an opponent in, at least one in 3 years. Just my opinion. He never goes for the finish. Never goes for the finish. When guys go to get up, he takes guys down at will. When they go to get back up, and he has that underhook, and then over here, he can go for a Darce choke. You can do that. You can spin to the back from there. He can do that. Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? He could pound them out from there. Just pound them out from there and make the faces fucking hit the canvas. Why doesn't he? I just don't understand this. This mindset of I'm going to keep the belt, but I'm not going to knock anybody out or submit them. I'm just going to win points. I don't get that mindset. Neither does Nick Diaz. He's not going to get the rematch, but I'd love to see Diaz Condit too. I'm disappointed. I tweeted that I was literally nervous for this fight to happen because I thought something like this might occur, but we got to move on. Johnny Hendricks, afterwards on Fuel TV, they were asking the most ridiculous question: which welterweight deserves the shot next? Are you fucking kidding me? It's Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks needs to give him George St. Pierre. I believe he's a better wrestler. I believe he hits harder. I think their jiu-jitsu game's about even. From what I've seen, I think their games are about even, except for Johnny Hendricks has more power and he's a better wrestler. So I think he's the guy to take. He's going to be the guy to take the title. Johnny Hendricks would take the title from GSP. Carlos Condit, all hard tonight, all hard, ball to the fucking wall, fight of the night. Ellenberger, spoiling Nate Marquardt. Man, Nate the Great, he was getting off fine. It's just that Jake Ellenberger, halfway through his career, found out shit. I have punching power, and that motherfucker hits hard. I did for some reason it rubs me the wrong way. All my picks went down. I had Nick Ring, I had Nate Marquardt, Carlos Condit, and Nick Diaz, and those were hopeful picks. They weren't what I really felt like we were going to be. End up being the winners. Who I thought was going to win was certainly GSP, Hendricks, Marquardt, and Ellenberger. I thought Marquardt could pull that out, and Nick Ring as well. The other two were just, I have to, Nick Diaz. That's my favorite fighter, man. My favorite fighter. And not only that, he's an inspiration to me. He's fan friendly, regardless to popular belief. The guy's fan friendly. He doesn't have to subscribe to my channel. He doesn't have to fucking do any of this shit. Talk to me or whatever. Accept messages from me, but he does. And George St. Pierre says, I've never seen a tweet in my life. I have people that do that for me. I think that's pathetic, man. John Jones is the same thing, and he's my second favorite fighter. Speaking of which, my next video will be John Jones versus Chael Sonnen, but UFC 158. The results are George St. Pierre defeats Nick Diaz 50-45. I thought Nick Diaz won round 3. Judges didn't see it that way. Like I said before, he's going to need a knockout or submission, and just didn't seem like he went for it. It was either that or George St. Pierre is just that goddamn good. And, I'm willing to give him that credit. I think George St. Pierre is just that good that Nick Diaz couldn't roll. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't submit him. He couldn't get off. He couldn't get his 1-2. Not even nothing going because George is just that good. It seems like for me it's a total reality check. George St. Pierre is good. He's good. He deserves the belt, and he certainly deserves respect from MMA fans all over the world. still disappointed. Ellenberger and Marquardt. Ellenberger just fucking destroyed him. He rocked him with the jab, really fucking rocked him with the right hand. Then was on the ground, just fucking almost knocked his head off. And then when it came to Nick Ring and Chris Kamazi, it was that was so razor thin. Nick Ring keeping his hands down the entire time, showing total disdain for Chris's stand-up game, but Chris ended up pulling out the split decision, and I didn't see that happening. I thought I scored it for Nick Ring. Just a convoluted, fucked up card, man. I was disappointed in all these decisions, and decision victories, and not one submission of the night or nothing like that. Those shouldn't disappoint me. I think on every UFC card, fuck, how many battles are there? 12. Somebody should submit somebody. Someone should knock someone out, and two people should go back and forth at war. That's the matchmaker should make sure that there's two guys that are going to do that. And I'm not blaming Joe Solo, and I'm not saying that the matchmakers are corrupt or don't think this fighter can withstand this. It's just that this is how this card unfolded. I am thoroughly disappointed in just about every bout on the card, except for the co-main event, Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, no question, needs to fight George St. Pierre. We need to see wrestler versus wrestler, power puncher versus wrestler / really quick jabber. We got to see it. So, fuck me, Nick Diaz lost. I've been meaning to say that the whole video. Fuck, Nick Diaz lost. Man, he lost. Props to George St. Pierre. Thanks to Nick Diaz. Thanks to Mr. Coldwater Canyon. Shout out to DJ. DEIGH, capital JAY. What's up? Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. I know you're watching now. Congratulations on getting Diaz as a subscriber. Like I said, Diaz is fan friendly. He's a good guy. Didn't show up tonight. Couldn't get off. Wasn't Nick Diaz. If it was Nick Diaz, I'd say so. I'd say Nick Diaz gave it his all and couldn't do it. I just don't feel that way. Let me know if you feel that way. Comment, rate, subscribe. Powerful 101 back. Felt good to be off for a while, but yeah, here's the post fight. I'm disappointed. I'm literally heartbroken. Nick, again gave his retirement speech. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but only time will tell. Probably not, but only time will tell. And let me know what you think.